Between the start of the year and March 7, oil and gas producers reported more than 7,125 spills across New Mexico, about 111 a day on average. Those spills include oil, produced water, other chemicals and natural gas, the last constituting the overwhelming majority of cases. In fact, companies lost as much natural gas through venting and flaring in that period as is used in more than 12,000 homes and small businesses in New Mexico for a year. That is despite state rules that prohibit routine venting and flaring. But none of that burned or vented natural gas flowed into the state budget. All of it flowed into the state's skies, contributing to New Mexico's, and the planet's, ongoing climate crisis, which is costing the state dearly. Most of that gas was released during the New Mexico Legislature's current session, where some legislators have proposed bills that would reduce those emissions. But so far, the legislature has killed bills that would further reduce climate warming emissions or new regulations for the oil and gas industry, the state's largest greenhouse gas emitter. The legislature is controlled by Democrats, and as they promote oil and gas production, they also appear to be milking the industry for all they can. Join our email list to get the stories that mainstream news is overlooking. Sign up for Capital and Main's newsletter. Between February 24 and March 7, 3 bills creating new oil and gas regulations died. Senator George Munoz, or D. Gallup, Representative Nathan Small, or D. Las Cruces, and Representative Meredith Dixon, or D. Albuquerque, voted with House Republicans to end the bills. Those votes follow a pattern that began earlier in the session. Of the 6 oil and gas bills that passed committee hearings in those 2 weeks, only one proposed a new regulation, requiring oil and gas companies to disclose the chemical composition of drilling fluids. Another bill codifies the state's existing methane capture rules. Both await hearings on the House floor. 2 bills would support the state's efforts to take over carbon sequestration well certification from the federal government. And the last 2 would raise fees and taxes on the industry, one by a little, the other by a lot. The first of the tax bills, oil and gas royalty rate changes, was shot down in last year's legislative session and has returned this year in much slimmer form. It again would raise oil and gas royalty rates from 20 to 25%, but this version would raise rates only on new wells on state lands in the Permian Basin, the highest producing region in the country. Representative Matthew McQueen, or D. Galistio, was the main sponsor last time. This time he's joined by Munoz and House Speaker Javier Martinez, or D. Bernalillo, 2 of the most powerful politicians in the Roundhouse and the 2 Democrats in the legislature who received the most in oil and gas donations. In a hearing before the House Energy, Environment and Natural Resources Committee, industry lobbyists spoke against the bill, saying the rate increase would make drilling unappealing to companies. But Sunalei Stewart, Deputy Commissioner of Operations at the State Land Office, which manages leases on state lands, said the state will have no problem selling the parcels because there will be a ton of profit. As if to prove the point, a representative from EOG Resources, the state's biggest oil and gas producer, called into the hearing to voice the company's support for the bill. It now awaits debate on the House floor. The Oil and Gas Equalization Tax Act, authored by Small and Dixon, would equalize the tax rates charged between oil and gas, currently 3.15% and 4%, respectively. According to Small, back in the 1990s, the rate on gas was bumped up a bit and the oil rate didn't follow suit. Numerically, it's a small increase of 0.85%, but according to the bill's fiscal report, it could net the state for $100 million or more annually starting next year, because it increases the tax on the state's biggest, most valuable mineral resource. During the bill's first hearing on March 3 before the House Energy, Environment and Natural Resources Committee, Small seemed unclear on the need for the dramatic increase in revenue, saying it could go to the state's general fund. But 72 hours later, speaking before the House Taxation and Revenue Committee, Small had firmed up the reason: chaos from the federal government. The federal administration right now has the potential to reduce the New Mexico state budget by $1 billion+, he said. That's a huge headwind. The bill passed both committees but has not yet been added to the House floor calendar.